Next up, we have a very interesting session. It's called Women in the Loop, Shaping the AI Economy. Gates Foundation and GXT Hub are the knowledge partners for this session. Before we start with that, just want to give you a background of it. So India's digital economy is projected to reach $1 trillion by 2029. That's not just altering markets, it's fundamentally reshaping the future of work. But as digital and AI evolves, we must ask, what is the role of women in this whole transformation? AI's expansion can either deepen exclusion or unlock new equitable pathways for women. Before we begin the panel, we are excited to share the launch of a report which is called Decoded Women and the Future of Digital Work in India. It's a report by the Gender and Digital Hub, GXD Hub, and the Nudge Institute, supported by the Gates Foundation. The report offers insights on the landscape, on concepts, and levers for deepening women's participation in the digital value chain. First, let's look at the report. There's a short video on the report, so let's play the video, look at what the report is all about, and then we can go on to the panel. Can we have the report, please? The video, please.
In Salem, a young data worker logs into her workstation every morning, working close to her home, earning with dignity, aiming for her first promotion. In Uttar Pradesh, a digital journalist edits local stories on her phone, pushing past restrictive norms to make new voices heard. Across rural India, frontline workers pick up their phones to enable last-mile public services. Tracking nutrition, delivering rations, delivering advice that saves lives. In the new landscape of women's work in India's booming digital economy, enabled by a strong DPI infrastructure, enabling policy environment, platformization of work, and the AI boom. The digital economy is not one job or equal to gig work alone. It's a spectrum of opportunity. From digitally enabled frontline roles to digitally engaged infrastructure and tech roles, to digitally embedded careers in AI, content, and data ecosystems. Yet, this work is often unrecognized, unprotected, and underpaid. And women are still clustered in entry-level roles where work is precarious, digital layer is invisible, and career progression is unclear. As AI platforms and DPI reshape work, the story is being rewritten. Join us in shaping a chapter powered by women. This moment calls for bold collaboration. Government, industry, and communities can step up to accelerate women's participation in the future of work. Women are already meeting the moment. It's time the ecosystem levels up. Discover how we can accelerate women's participation, engagement, and progression at scale.
Thank you. Thank you for that. May I now please invite our panelists to the stage. Sharad Sharma, co-founder, iSpirit Foundation. Kalika Bali, Senior Principal Researcher, Microsoft Research Labs, India. Gayathri Vasudevan, Chief Impact Officer, Samba Foundation. Sonal Madhushankar, Lead Actor, Humans in the Loop film. And the session will be moderated by Arjun Venkatraman, Senior Officer, AI, Gates Foundation. Before we start off with the panel, we'd like to launch the report officially. So may I please ask the panelists to just pick up the report in front of you, and we'd like a quick photo op. So please, if you could come on center stage, maybe here. And then, yeah, just pose for the picture. Yeah, one second. Can I please have the cameraman for the official picture? Okay, I think, yeah, he's just coming in. Sorry, always happens. Super. I'm excited to share that this session, this very session, is also an official pre summit event of the India AI Summit 2026. In that spirit, we are also glad to share that we are supported by Bashini for transcription and translation of this session. Thank you so much, panelists. Can I please request you to join us on stage? Thank you. The session is titled Women in the Loop, Shaping the AI Economy. Gates Foundation and GXT Hub are the knowledge partners for this session. Arjun, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thanks everyone for being here. It's a pleasure to be sitting on stage with people all of whose work I'm familiar with and really love. So thank you all for being here as well. Uh, we're going to do this in a completely conversational way. So I'll just give cues where I can, and then I'll request all of you to come in with some of your thoughts and all of your rich experience. So I think, this topic of women in the loop is very dear for at least me at the Gates Foundation, because we've been working on this with folks like Karya and the Nudge and other folks like MSR, Kalika's here, on figuring out what is the role that women can and potentially could play in the overall digital and AI economy, not just as sort of beneficiaries or users, but also as builders and creators and owners. And in that spirit, this is a particularly interesting conversation to have. But before we get into that, I'd love to get some of your perspectives, and maybe we can start with the minority representation on the panel with Sharad. What do you think? You've been part of the India innovation journey from its early days, and so you've seen some of these revolutions happen over and over. It would be good to get your perspective on, with all the hype happening around AI and the potential impact on jobs. Do you feel like this is going to further increase the gender divide? Do you see that it's going to potentially have a transformative effect? What do you see from your vantage point?
We all agree that digital changed work, and there were, of course, some downsides, but there were many upsides. We generally talk about the upsides, not so much about the downsides. I remember at the introduction, for example, there was this mention of $1 trillion economy. We often don't highlight that digital did squeeze out sales, marketing, distribution, and installation, and in a very significant way. So, and perhaps has quietly resulted in 50 million jobs lost there. And that has affected our MSME sector in a big way. Now, it is quite clear that AI's impact on work is going to be many times more significant. And so therefore, I think our conversation has to postulate as to what the future will look like in terms of work. What kind of work will become more important? What kind of work will become less important? And then how will it affect the two genders, and what is it that we can do to mitigate some of the ill effects that are there. My own, it is important, at least we are so early in the process, to have humility about what the future will look like. And so, but currently it seems to me that the focus will shift away from tasks. Because wherever there are tasks, AI can step in and do it for you. And it will go towards more where judgments have to be made or problems have to be solved. And in some areas that is quite evident, right? If you see journalism, social media, marketing, those are of white collar jobs that are already affected quite significantly. You hear of many people, even in India, who are now cutting back on staff. I was with a senior partner from the US yesterday, and he was telling me that they are already getting rid of paralegals in the US. They're not waiting. It is happening today. It's not even in the future, right? So you are going to see lots of jobs actually go away at the low end. I mean, I'm a software engineer, and I can tell you, you know, if there is a young software engineer, a QA tester, there is very little options, very few options available for them. You know, so you are certainly going to see a mega shift in the structure of work. And we must examine, I think, in our panel what that is and how will it affect people.
So, you know, you mentioned judgment and moving towards decision making as the sort of career path for some of this work. So, Kalika, you've been in this space. You've literally invented a lot of the AI communications that we see today. So, it would be great to hear your perspective. Where do you see this going? How do you see this work evolving?
So I really agree that there is going to be disruption. So like, you know, we spent a few early cycles of AI hitting us pretending that this is not going to be disruptive. Now everybody agrees that this is going to be disruptive. Now, I mean, just think about it. I agree with a lot of what Sharad said, but let's just think through some of this. You know, when we're talking about women's participation in workforce in general, you know, in India, women's participation in workforce has been going down over the last few years. That's one thing. The second thing is, where are women most employed in various sectors, right? Women tend to do, I'll talk about my own area. There are only about 12 to maybe 18%, depending on how you define, AI and ML scientists who are women, or like not even scientists, engineers who are women in India. So that's also a very small amount. But where do most of the women go? Where are they employed the most? It is at this lower skilled jobs, the so-called lower skilled jobs. And these are the kind of jobs that Sharad is saying are most, like at the beginning are going to be most affected, right? But we have things like, you know, where do we see decision making? Where do we see that human touch that is required? Where do we see women as the human in the loop for some of the tasks that the AI is doing? And, you know, one thing that I really do think is perhaps an area where it might not be so easy to replace is care. Right? Even if like we think about the Ashas, and there are like thousands of Asha bots, you know, Asha, if for those who don't know, are the frontline health workers who work on maternal and child care health, right? Child health. So, you know, that's the first thing that everybody with a technological hammer tries to hit, right? Now, the thing there is that we have these evidence, right, where there is some medicine that the AI recognizes as a name, for example, right? And it gets completely confused. So, but it's actually a medicine that's about contraception, right? Or women health care. Now, an Asha who's in the loop is able to judge the output of the AI and say that, you know, this is actually not a woman's name. This is actually a medicine, right? So these are like very trivial anecdotal examples that I'm giving. But, you know, I think we really have to think about the context in which women are employed, the context in which women can be the human in the loop where AI kind of takes over a lot of these tasks. And I agree it will.
No, thank you. This is great. And Gayathri, you've worked with some of the most vulnerable worker communities in the country. would be great to, and you know something about jobs which nobody wants to do. So it would be great to hear your perspective. How do you see this this playing out from your point of view? And you've also worked on some of the kind of work that Kalika is describing on even the gender bias annotation. Your teams have done that. So it would be great to see how you see those things comparing, and what's the next stage here.
So I think I came prepared to say something, and then hearing Sharad and Kalika, you know, I was just trying to define it as floor and ceiling. So I worked largely at the floor and not the ceiling, and so I was just trying to contextualize it. So I would call myself a right-wing optimist. You know, completely, I do believe technology has always brought liberation in a sense and has caused economic prosperity. I sort of will not go in depth there, but just take historically. I'm just saying, if we were to go by historically, electricity was liberating. It caused, enormous economic prosperity. And I'll come to gender in a minute. Automobiles, the more mobility there has been, right? From cars to buses to now metros and trains and aircraft has been very liberating. The sort of phone, the various types of phones, let me not go into, from the black one which was locked in the room or whatever on the desk to the mobile phone has been liberating. So, and I was just listening to Sharad and Kalika say and said, for women, what has been holding them back, at least as you said, over the last 30 years is what I have witnessed it, and the rest is pure, what one reads about, is actually that they have never owned assets. So they have never owned rights ever. So any small upside has given them that liberation. So let me just, and bear with me, I'm just sort of thinking this thought through. So if you look at it, who owns land? It has traditionally been men. But because there was actually a rebate given to, if you were registering land in the men and the women's name, which was a technology enabled one, women really gained. Now, did they get ownership of it, or was it a quote unquote, pseudo ownership? I think over time it becomes ownership. So this happened in the 1990s. If you look at now, that same thing, women are asking for their rights. The number may be small, but it's still significant. And Kalika, data is all over the place, right? One doesn't know if women's workforce participation is increased or not, but for the record, and if one goes by the record, it's at about 30+% now, which is the highest. Now, where are they highest is that's why I said floor and ceiling, right? So it's probably at the floor, but then they were not on the floor. So agriculture was somewhere they were there, and they are still in rural areas in agriculture. Ownership is not there. Ownership of shops, which they quote unquote man during the day, is not there. But when I look at it, I don't look at the digital task work necessarily. When I look at it, I look at it saying, does it give them the liberty of knowing and the opportunity of knowing where work is at all? I think that's where I am. And one thing I'm completely in agreement is, in my opinion, work is going to be in waste and in care. And I'll just sort of spend a minute on the waste. So in our work with waste, actually the what we call RRC or DWC, the recovery centers, what is very interesting is there's so much technology. The person who is the vehicle is completely, sometimes I think to myself, it's like everything has an IoT to it, The waste picker is monitored on an IoT. So you're like, where are you going, where are you coming, on attendance, etc. is there. But waste is not going anywhere. We all know waste is collecting. Post-consumer waste, whether it's textile waste, plastic, thermocol, food waste, one is not seeing change happening there, and that's why we have garbage in a sense, right? If we simplistically see it. But that means that at some point, change is happening. The nuance that is there is where is change happening faster? Is it for the women, or is it for the men, or is it for the society? I think because I come in as a user, a pure user of, of a technology which is going to change. And, and that's where, in a sense, I see positivity. What I do not know is decision making by whom. So if I take garbage as an example, if I take healthcare as an example, these are two places, in my opinion, decisions, this work may not be what men want to do. And therefore, it may actually work to our advantage. That's my take.
It would be a poor reason to choose a profession if the only reason was that a man didn't want to take it. But we do talk about this access, control, and agency is the framework that we work with. So you kind of laid that out, that access is not adequate. You need to have control over the resource and then also some agency in making decisions about it. So thank you for laying that out. And Sonal, I'm going to switch to a different bit of a gear. You've got some very diverse experience. You're an engineer and you're an actor. So would be good to hear your perspectives on some of the stuff that the folks on the panel have said around how liberating is technology, all of that. And then it would be great to sort of close your thoughts on where do you see skilling play a role? Because you've done some fairly diverse stuff, and I'm assuming some reskilling was involved in that. So how do you see skills applying to some of the work that women will be doing now and in the future? It would be great to hear from you.
Hi, my name is Sonal Madhushankar. So, Women in the Loop. Ever since I have heard about Charcha 2025, many women have contacted me. Chetna, Meera, Manasa had taken my interview. Many women are sitting here, mostly women are sitting here, and I think they are good listeners. So for me, I think women have always been there, but they are working in back end. They need to be in forefront without a fear. If you will watch my movie Humans in the Loop, I take this decision of telling my supervisor that this is what it is, this is ethical, and you should not name it as pest. Why women did that? I mean, I don't know whether men has that because they need to take care of their family. They are under pressure that, sometimes they are very cynical about taking care of everything. But when it comes to women, she can take that, she has that courage to speak for herself. Where this is coming from? I think women are very intelligent. They are emotionally very intelligent, and artificial intelligence need that. It's a two-way communication. I mean, when we see chatbot, it's a two-way communication, but I, as a person, need a person in front of me who has 5 sensory organs, who can understand my feelings, my breathing pattern, and everything. The way Chetna has understood me and she has guided me how this charcha will go through. The way Mansa had told me that what you think about charcha, just give me a bite. So these communications are very important, which women can only do. Women are already in the loop, wherein, if of course you people are here, but I think they are helping us. The second thing which you're talking about, that whatever we have discussed here, she was talking about right wing, about what did you say? Right wing, very positive about that this technology. Yes, I also think I am not critical about anything. As an artist, I need to show empathy towards everything. So I have shown empathy towards technology as well. You were talking about waste picker also. So I would like to talk on that. So when we talk about manual scavengers, we think about men. But when I wrote a play, it was about women. In villages, we have they pick waste, and they don't want to do this job. So when we are talking about that our jobs are, going to take, they will take, the AI will take over, there are certain jobs which women don't want to do. What are we going to do about that? Is artificial intelligence going to help these women that they don't want to pick waste of people? So I think there are two sides of artificial intelligence, and we need to broaden our horizon. And there are certain jobs that downtrodden people are doing, lower caste people are doing, and we should think about that also. What are we going to do about that? Of course, the high-paying jobs are giving more economy to our government. We are more concerned about it because we need money. But what about the jobs we are low paying? Are we concerned about them? Are we concerned about that section of the society? I think artificial intelligence can help in that area. Yeah, that's what I think.
Thank you. Thank you. This is very, very interesting angle on things. But I'm going to switch up my order a little bit here. And Kalika, you work with groups of women from low resource communities in bringing their lived experience to bear as a skill in terms of doing work that they get paid for. So it would be great to hear how what Sonal is talking about, how does that sort of play up in things like Akal Badhiya bias?
So I'm a researcher, so it's my job to be critical and critique everything I hear. And just a clarification, I did not mean that women's participation as an absolute has gone down, but the rate has gone down drastically from 2018. It's slipped to less than 3%, or 3%, about 3% is the rate at which women are joining the workforce. So it's still an increase, but it's slipped drastically. So coming to the kind of things that Sonal talked about and Gayathri talked about, I am actually talking at the floor level. I'm not talking at the ceiling level. I am actually talking about people who are doing these kind of tasks. And how technology can actually hit them. And Arjun might remember this, there was this session with women farmers in Bihar, right? And the women, there was a session where people were creating applications to help women farmers, like they had to have LLMs and they had to have gender. And can I just tell you what most of the applications developer did there? They turned their apps pink. So that was their tip to, being gender inclusive. Some of them would go and talk to these women farmers and say, do you, in Hindi they would say, आपको game खेलना है, आप ये game खेलेंगे, you will play this game, you will earn some credits and you will get like some valuable information about a scheme. Totally out of context, totally not aware of how those people are working. And the women were very adamant. They said, no, like we don't have time to play your silly games. And then later when those people went out of the room, I was sitting just observing with some of the women there. They turned to me and they said, Didi, why does everyone think we need information? Why is always information being forced down our throat? We have several other ways to get information, right? And they keep building a new app for every single thing. How many apps are we supposed to have on our phone for, just getting some information? Why do they not build things that really help? We've seen documentaries that in China they have these robots who go into the field and do the actual hard work, right? So why are we not like, why doesn't anybody come to us and say, we are building these things, you don't have to go and do this hard work, they'll go in your stead and you can control them, etc., etc. And that's the kind of stuff that I think, when we sit in rooms and panels like this, we kind of distance ourselves from, we start talking about generalizations, we start talking about, even because that's the context that I'm in right now, I'll talk about, overall this is happening, and it is actually those experiences. Another experience is bias. Like, what does even bias mean? Right? Who decides what is biased? Now, this girl, after being instructed or given examples, she came up with this thing of, लड़कियों को दांत दिखा के नहीं हंसना चाहिए. Girls should not laugh with their teeth showing. Right? Now, who here would think that is the prime example of bias against women? So I just think that, trying to understand the lived experience is extremely important if we are not going to come to a situation where AI, on one hand, is very positive. I mean, that's not surprising, actually, Gayathri, because India, on the whole, is a very techno-positive country. We always view technology as something positive. We are not like the Europeans or the Americans. We are We think of education as a way to go forward. We think of technology as another thing to go forward in life, right? But we also have to see that this is a very, very powerful tool or technology, and it is going to disrupt existing structures, and it disrupts for the positive and not for the negative. We have this huge potential, but we also have this downside where this could lead to even more inequity, and we have to be just careful about that.
Absolutely. So, Sharad, maybe I'll switch over to you and ask you a bit of a tough question. So you've now seen, you've been in this ecosystem for you've got the entirety of the vision, and you understand the market really well, right? So now the kind of mobility that we're talking about, from floor to ceiling, or from low scale to high scale, or from low resource to high resource, we know that there are some pathways that have worked well for people to go down this, but from your perspective, how do we make those pathways more equitable? What are the pathways that will work specifically for women to be able to, well, one, get from floor to ceiling, and then to the points that Sonal and Gayathri made, that, what are the things that we actually want automation to actually take over? How do we get that also going so that the work that we are doing is actually more uplifting and enjoyable? I think that's not a bad word here.
Right. So to frame an answer to that, I think we have to have a mental model about what changes will take place in the future. In my mental model, there are three elements. In 1780, you had a steam engine that could do rotary motion. By 1800s, it was being deployed. You know what happened? The first thing that happened is that you didn't need men to work in the factories. And they had children working in the factories. The 1848 manifesto written by Karl Marx is really because there was enormous displacement of men, of brawn, that took place. And since brawn was with men at that time, it caused a social upheaval of a kind that resulted in that displacement. Now, is there such a displacement coming? Certainly. I mean, in white collar work, it is coming. You can go to LLM and that will write a offer letter for you, or whatever letter that you need, an article, much better than an ordinary regular human being can. Now, of course, best human beings can write better, but LLM can already write much better than an ordinary human being. And that is a reality in front of us today. So office work, white collar office work, is going to see the same disruption that the brawn saw in the factory. Now, why did Karl Marx's view of society not become the mainstream view of society? Because a second effect took place, that while that displacement was happening and was being replaced by a word that we use often, we need a skill. We don't need brawn. We need an ironsmith who's skilled. So skill became the replacement. And there was at that time the skill revolution. And the second factor that took place was called a market expansion. The market expanded in a way that we have never seen before. Till 1800s, you could go to any part of the world, in India or anywhere else, for the last 1,000 years, and people living in that place would have lived more or less the same way that they had been staying for the last 1,000 years in that place. But you fast forward from 1830 to the next 100 years, the changes that people have seen, that my grandparents saw, your grandparents saw in their lifetime, was extraordinary. And that happened because the social systems changed, and we saw an expansion. Expansion of what? Expansion of economic activity, expansion of all kinds of societal activities. So therefore, those skilled people that emerged all were consumed. And the best example of that is that you see in the Western world, agriculture fell from 60% to under 10%, and all the people, who were there were absorbed. And in the US, if you look at Lincoln's biography, he says, he won the Civil War, but he said, I want the history to remember me for the Land Grant Act of 1862, which was to help the people in the US go from an agri economy to a non-agri economy. And that frankly has been successful beyond imagination. So that expansion consumed all the people that were released from hard work, from brawn work. Now the question is, what is that expansion that we are going to see? I certainly don't know the answer to that. Because they see, if that expansion is not going to become visible to us, we are looking at a Karl Marx situation. Now, we can say, okay, in pockets, a little bit here and a little bit there, but that's not going to solve the problem, because the disruption that is coming is very, very significant. And I don't think it's even gender, because it's going to just upend society in a big way. Now, where could it come? I would offer a hypothesis of what it could be. I don't think we are at a period where economic activity will consume all the people who are freed up from all of this. Because I think the whole nature of AI, particularly robotics, is to replace economic activity, human economic activity, with robots. Why is Elon Musk asked for $1 trillion pay package? Because he says he's going to make 1 million robots. Now, whether he does or he doesn't, the danger of that happening is very high. So AI is going to move into physical AI, and perhaps at a scale that we don't fully anticipate today. So the question then is that if that replacement activity is not economic in nature, then all the approaches that we have had about even gender equality go through the road, then why? Because up till now, the whole notion of gender equality was, can we get women to have the same economic opportunity that men have? If economic opportunity is no longer the measure of society, which is a few that we are looking at, then what would be an alternate measure of society? May I offer you I think that... Yeah, please.
So this is something that I really worry about a lot. So I think, since you're going to explain, I would like you to also answer this question. If all economic activity is going to be replaced, or like majority of the economic activity is going to be replaced by AI, who's going to pay for it? What is, like, if people are going to be out of, like, vast number of people are going to be out of jobs and not have earnings, who's going to keep the economy growing and working, and where is that going to come from?
If frankly, the question to ask is, who will pay for the energy that will be used to drive that? But frankly, as a percentage of the economy, that's such a small number. You will find mechanisms to do that. My worry is that even if you give universal basic income, which of course is a big question mark in a country like this, and frankly, Mohandas Pai has done some work for Odisha. For example, if you are an OBC family in Odisha and you get all the benefits, you get through all the benefits roughly 5,000 rupees a month as the value of those benefits, and they are sufficient for you to live a modest life in the village, right? So we have a form of UBI. It's not one income, but it's spread over many, many DBT kind of inputs that family is getting, and that may be a workable thing. But the point is that the human nature is not about, if you give UBI, early experiments of UBI that have taken place, some of them funded by philanthropic communities, have found that it does not result in good outcomes. Because people need meaning in their life. They need to be engaged with something. So what is that going to be? I would offer you, maybe the only thing that will matter then, this is half in jest, but only half in jest. Maybe the only thing that will matter then is which country is the chess player of the world. Who produces more sports people in the world? Who has people who play at the top of their game? Is it for money? No. Is it because that is the only measure of human potential that is meaningfully left? Because the measure of human potential isn't that what kind of car you drive. because that is not going to be materially different. The human potential will be, if you are wired to play chess, do you play chess, better than everybody else? So if this is going to be an era of fully meeting the human potential of everybody, then I would make a very controversial statement, which you guys may kill me for. I ask you a question. How many babies did India have last year? Does anybody know? I'll give you the answer, 23 million. The second country which had babies was China. How many were they? Were they 21 million, 16 million, or 9 million? 9 million? 21?
I'll take the remaining option, 16.
16. The answer is 9. If you take Indonesia, that's 8. If you take the next 5 countries, they are roughly about 23 million. If any country in the world has to focus on fully raising and exploiting, or exploiting is not the right word, leveraging or helping these 23 million children meet their fullest potential, India has to do it. India has to do it at a scale which the next 5 countries combined don't have to worry about. And if India doesn't do it, no matter what we talk on the panel will be relevant. Because though that we are the crucible for humanity as we speak today. So the question then is, can we use AI in education, AI for health, AI for creating the fullest potential, what many people called as the orchid theory of human potential, that no two individuals sitting here, maybe there are 150 people. Do you know how many types of orchids are there? Very many more. And no two orchids are alike. One needs arid soil, they all need different habitats to survive in. So the orchid theory of human potential is, what in the future world we will treat everybody as an individual, understand what habitat will help them fully rise to their potential, and give them that habitat. And that is not going to be an issue of money. Now I'll finish with this. To do that, you could call it nurturing, you could call it parenting, you could call it AI coaching, you could call it problem solving, but what will it need? It will need ultimately messy situations to be dealt with. Mm-hmm. It will need crucial conversations, because you're going to be dealing with contentious issues, because change will be so much around us. It will be a high stakes game. Now, do you think women can be better than men in this area? My answer is yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. So the question is, then the way to leverage AI is to prepare women to be able to solve these messy, where there are emotionally charged and high stakes problems better than men. And if you can do that, then you will have a role for them in society that will be quite significant.
I'm going to ask a dad joke question. What's common to orchids and babies? They both produce waste, and they both need care.
No, but I'll tell you where the more relevant thing is. Today we look at human potential as a rose problem, not as an orchid problem. And how many of you here have been to Himalayas and been to one of the many orchid research centers that we have in the foothills of Himalayas? Yeah? India has the largest number of orchid research centers in the world. Okay. Orchids are one of the oldest flowers in the world. And from an evolutionary perspective, so studying them is the basis of a lot of botany that we have. Because we have a very wide variety of orchids available, we have the maximum orchid research centers. If you go to a rose research center, you will only find one greenhouse there. You go to any orchid research center, you will find many greenhouses there. Because you can't grow all the orchids in one greenhouse. The diversity of habitat that they need is so much that it can't be put in one greenhouse. So the human potential human potential method was the rose potential, where all types of roses can be grown in one greenhouse. So of course some thrive a little better than others. So really what AI may propel is a shift from a rose greenhouse, rose research model to a orchid model where everybody gets their own personal greenhouse so that they can rise the fullest potential. I know it's very, very abstract idea, but to me, that is one way to think of it. If indeed you feel that economic activity will lose its importance, and because a lot of it will be taken over by AI.
So the reason I made that comment about care and waste is because we talked about some of that, and care, waste, and energy seem to be the binding constraints on a lot of our future. So Gayathri, do you want to come in on how do you see the skilling piece playing into, or what Sharad is talking about, the whole idea of personalized, focused skilling or training? How do you see that evolving in some of the workforces that you work with? Do you see that as feasible? Do you think it's going to be hard to do?
So I will sidestep that question because I think the current skilling which is happening, and Kalika, that's where I differed with the floor and the ceiling is, I think the mistake that we've made with all kinds of philanthropic funding as well as with government funding and now with CSR funding is we've always looked at skilling at the floor. For example, how much have we funded great researchers at Indian Institute of Science or educational institutions of eminence, right? So therefore we are not able to, the ceiling, and I'm not equipped to say it, but it's been on my mind more and more, is that how many researchers do we have? But we're coming with data centers maybe will slowly move from Europe to India because of the people in the floor who will come up. And that's what worries me really, right? If we constantly focus only on the floor and say skilling is for the poor, skilling is for those who are not good, and that's my bread and butter, as Arjun has constantly been trying to push me, but that worries me because that we are seeing statistic after statistic, we are seeing paper after paper saying that it's not working. But that's a mirage we refuse to go away from. And I'll just sort of, I'll just come in here in a minute. I just want to take an example, Sharad, of the construction industry. It's a sector which has always fascinated me from the beginning. Agriculture and construction were fascinating simply because of the number of people working there. And at face value, there is no shortage there. From a living wage, let me put it that way. The construction industry in the 90s, in the 2000s, had women on the shop floor, on the construction site. With the conversations around exploitation and with technology, it actually women went out because women were housekeepers there. They would take out the stones, the grovel, all of that. They were really not masons. They were not in any way skilled. So one of the things that I often ask myself the question is, all the work that we did to ensure they had rights actually eliminated them. You tell me one large site today, either real estate or infrastructure. I'm not talking of the smaller, I would put construction into 4 quadrants. The first 2 quadrants of the infrastructure and the real estate, you will not find women because you have foundations which are much lower, 2, 3, it's going down. You have tower cranes which are coming up. You don't need masons. You have block masonry. It's almost like you can prepare it. You look at China, those are coming to India. It's all like fabricated and coming here, right? But what was the small technological change which came? And it often, I hate it, I'll say it bluntly. People were fascinated about this silly helmet where she could carry, that whatever you call bandli there. And I was thinking to myself, life is changing. Women are getting eliminated and we're saying, women can carry more in the 2 years while change is happening. So where I'm coming from is, it is important for us to invest in the ceiling now. If we do not, then for the rest, well, users like me, which Arjun is saying, people who I deal with is the today will benefit. Today they anyway don't have agency, so small wins are huge wins. For example, I'll take a simple example. A beautician, it's an industry I deal a lot with. I love that skill training, not because it's giving income, but simply because after every session, after every training, a woman goes out more confident on a purely superficial element, but her confidence level goes up. Her chatter there, her ability to just have a chai shop moment in the beauty training center or the tailoring training center has no value, no economic value to it. And when you're measuring economic, today we've related it to that 12,000 and 17,000 and 15,000, but where are we thinking beyond it? And that's the worry. And why I took the waste example was, in my opinion, technology to so much research is done. Like you said, orchids, a whole bunch, right? You have gobar becoming logs so that they become firewood for cremation. You have densifiers, extruder machinery. These are all areas where, to what Sonal said, right? We don't want to do the dirt work. Where technology can come in, can be liberating, because like I said, we don't want women carrying bricks on their or debris all over the place. Shoots can do it, other things can do it, can come involved. Today, unfortunately, when we think of apps and technology, it is the revenue model of India. It is, there were district collectors who were collecting revenue. That's why they were called district collectors, right? Today we've gone to monitoring. We've gone to, when we think of AI, we only think of how do I monitor a teacher? How do I give information to monitor? I think the framework that we're applying is not liberating enough. It's about our thought of what is that framework. And that's my, serious worry there is, for me, as a user, I repeat, right, it is liberating for women. Technology has been positive, that gets them out. But it is that because India has not invested in a ceiling, and I never thought about it like you said in, those were statistics for me. China's birth rate and India's birth rate, women's workforce practice, these are statistics. But the more I'm thinking about it, all the more we need to change the money that's coming to organizations like us, sorry to say it, to go to ceiling work. If we don't do it, we miss the bus. Because in our today, we will lose the tomorrow. We've not understood. I mean, I know agency is not there. It's a fact. For me, it's traffic, right? Every day I'm dealing with that. But every day I'm dealing with why people are not getting jobs and not staying in jobs. Jobs are not the problem. It's the poor quality which is the problem, right?
Absolutely.
Then we have to change that narrative.
Yeah. Sorry, Sonal, you wanted to come in, and then we have a couple of questions from the audience, so I do want to take some time for that, and we've got about 5-7 minutes. I'll let Grishka keep me honest here. Okay. But maybe you want to, I know you've been wanting to say something for a while, so why don't you go with that, and then we can come to the questions later.
So actually I was thinking about, out of that 23 million, how many were baby girls? Yeah, that's what I was thinking, because we were talking about women in the loop.
We know the gender ratio very accurately by pocket by pocket, actually. The gender ratio is known now.
And so when we are talking about cleaning up mess, I don't want women to take that onus. I want equal opportunity for men in that area as well. I mean, doing these kind of jobs, only we think about women, right? That they are going to clean these things. At home also, we see our mothers are doing all the jobs. I mean, cleanliness, related to cleanliness. So our, thought process is like that, wherein we see women in that framework. We, Nehema or Sonal wants to change that thought process. When that thought process will change, women in the loop, and she's talking about the ceiling work, will change ultimately. Most of the time we see that female farmers are called as laborers. They are not called farmers, whereas men are called farmers. So when is this perception going to change? This is monolithic perception about a society. I think that should change, and when that will change, artificial intelligence will be ethical and the programming will be ethical. we need ethical programming in artificial intelligence. And who is going to do that? I think women can take that responsibility because she has this emotional intelligence. She has been raising child. Society has given this onus on her that if something goes wrong with the child, it's who you are responsible. So I think if she has taken that onus to take care of child, and if she has been, people have been blaming her that if child is going wrong, you are the reason. So I think she knows what are ethics, and if she comes into technology, she knows where to draw the line. So I think the topic was women in the loop, and I see that here many women are listening to me. They are good listeners. We need men also to listen to what we are trying to say. Sometimes we say bad things and we want to, but please listen to us. Whatever experiences we had, whatever understanding we had, don't take that invalid. Those are valid experiences. Our understanding is important and that is valid. This is what I wanted to talk.
Perfect. And I think most of the questions on this, I feel we've covered in some way. I guess the one I'll leave on the table and let all the panelists speak to, and Sharad, maybe you could start with this, is what parts of this equation, women, workforce, and AI, are we still absolutely clueless about? So some thoughts on that would be great to start with.
My view is that, my fundamental point is that what is going to go away, right? If brawn went away, what is going to go away is repetitive work. This is what AI and digital is taking away. If repetitive work is going to go away, then you will actually need creative work. What does creative work means? That you're looking at a problem and no two people are going to solve the problem the same way, right? And now, of course, there's a gradation of problems. There are some easy problems to solve, and then there are hard problems to solve. In my mind, the hard problems are which are messy problems, which have contention built into them, which have high stakes. Because if something goes wrong, bad things will happen. A doctor's job is difficult because if the doctor makes a wrong diagnosis, gives the wrong treatment, there are serious consequences which you won't have, in many other jobs. So the point is, if we are going away from repetitive work to because repetitive work, digital and AI will take over completely. Even physical repetitive work will be taken over completely, right? So if we are going to non-repetitive work, you can call it creative work, but it's problem-solving work, and which means no two people are going to solve there. My suggestion is that we raise people, men and women, to do that, which means our education system has to change materially, because the education system has been designed by the British for repetitive work, and we haven't had the gumption to make the changes that are needed. Now they are upon us. So this is the kind of changes that we will have to confront, whether we like or not. Now, finishing with this, I am cautiously optimistic. Because, look, I find that sports is a great metaphor for this kind of thing. No two cricket games are the same. And sports, you will agree with me, you can't have a discussion sports without cricket. The Pataudi era of cricket is fully over. Can you find one new player who's not come from a very modest background, from a small town?
And that's a field that women are taking over as well now.
Exactly.
So Kalika, do you want to finish on?
So my sense is, this is the future that we have to build for. And we know how to make that happen, but that means unlearning all the things that we have been focused on, which are no longer going to be relevant in the future, and building a mental model of what will matter in the future if this is the new world that we are actually going to see as we go.
Perfect. And Kalika, I'll let you
All
take
three.
the last word.
All three. So, and there are reasons why we are clueless about all three. Around the women thing, I think there's a lot of invisible work that needs to be brought to the forefront that people are just not aware of. So therefore they are clueless. On the work side of things, I really liked what Gayathri said just now, that, this whole thing of focusing on, which is also very necessary in the present moment, right? Uplifting at the floor level, but not really looking where the ceiling is for the women. So from the thing there, also we are kind of clueless. And AI, with due humility, anyone And I think Sharad referred to this when he spoke about it in the beginning. Anyone who tells you that this is what's going to happen in 10 years, this paints a complete picture of how AI is going to change the world, is clueless themselves, because we actually do not know where this is going in all its details. So we are very clueless. We can make assumptions, we can speculate, but we are pretty clueless about where AI is going in the mid and longer term.
Perfect. On that inconclusive note, we will conclude. Thank you for all your time and attention, and thank you for being here with us.